Oh, hello there, and welcome to Phil Talking D20. So, today's video, we're not deep diving back into the mystical and magical worlds of Secrets of Magic just yet, because I had an interesting thought about Ancestry feats and why they are quite a useful and fun tool in your game. What do I mean by that? Well, obviously we all know when you are creating your character, you will get an ancestry feat of some kind, and you'll pick it and you'll move on, and normally that's where it ends. However, I recently started a new campaign. I say recently, it's been running for 4 or 5 weeks, I think, roughly. And going through that process with my character creation kind of conversations, the characters that my players created had a good chunk of backstory. Nothing mind-bogglingly over the top. There wasn't 14 pages and a 10,000 word essay and thesis on why they, who, they where they came from and what they were about and stuff. But there was enough meat on the bones and enough kind of story and also placement in the world to give them quite cool, unique themed stories. One of them, Rurik, is a sorcerer, but he's a sorcerer from the crown of the world, which obviously is like the polar region, if you like, the North Pole on Galarian. But he, the player playing him, wanted to change up sorcerer a little bit, do something a bit kind of different, and he basically wanted to be someone from the land of the Linon Kings, and their people live in that region. The actual campaign is set in Tianzai, and the general setting had been focused in on Hongal. Another player had chosen to be from Hongal, and he themed his character into that. Now, the first and obvious thing was, you only get one ancestry feat, and sometimes, is that enough? No, it's never enough. There's never enough feats. If you gave someone 5 feats, they'd want 6. If you gave someone 50 feats, they could run very fast. But you kind of know where I'm coming from. When you go back through my experience of gaming, 3.5 and obviously 5th edition, where feats are an optional rule, as well as Pathfinder 1, that you never get enough, do you? You always want more of the damn things. And certain systems are more generous than others. Pathfinder 2 is clearly more generous, significantly more generous than 3.5 or 5th edition when it comes to kind of feat builds and feat kind of processes. So, Rurik, this kind of, almost a spell sword in a way, he wanted the character to be someone who was a true kind of warrior of the land of the Linon Kings. So he wanted to be able to use a shield and an axe. So Viking shield bearer, being one of his kind of optional picks because he was from a northern region heritage, gave him that option. But it meant that he missed out on being a winter-touched human, which is probably more fitting, but not cool, or as cool as being able to wield a shield and a battle axe whilst being a sorcerer. So, conversations continue. I'm talking to another player. They're discussing their character. They come up with this idea about being a ranger because they really want to be a bowman. They really want to kind of get into the whole Genghis Khan kind of, Mongol horseman kind of archer raider. And they're going through their picks and they're choosing this and they're choosing that. And they've gone with a beast-touched human, which was very cool. And obviously that kind of themed them out. And there is a native kind of wolf-like animal, which I forget, that is like a native kind of hound of the plains of Hongal, which the people of Hongal tame. So he'd already kind of geared in on this idea of having an animal companion and being an archer. Those were an easy fit. But with the kind of the beast touch element, he chose that animal. Now we used wolf to kind of replicate that because effectively that's what it was. But again, then we were kind of looking at it, and if you're a true kind of I mean, they're called, the horse people in the fluff. And again, we're back to this thing about, hang on a minute, he's only got one. So I had a little thought, and I was just like, why not just give them one as the DM? So I let the players create their characters. Similar story with the third, playing a monk but themed around ninja, and they came up with this idea about being. They got hooked up on Returned as the kind of the backdrop to the character, which is you've died, traveled to the boneyard, and returned, and you get these kind of special abilities that help you resist becoming undead and really cool stuff like that. And by the end of it, they work for a ninja clan who are specialist undead hunters. Works perfectly for the monk because the monk gets ghost touch runes, and those kind of properties and magical strikes. Oh, tell a lie, no. One of their other feat background picks enabled them to grant the ghost touch rune if they had a magical weapon. And monks quite quickly get magical strikes. Bob's your uncle, a 5th level rune at like level 2 or 3. I think it's level 3 technically. Although +1 hand wraps of mighty blows at level 2, pretty reasonable gift. Bob's your uncle, 5th level ghost touch rune on a monk who punches like Bruce Lee. Bad times. Catfolk as well. So a returned catfolk monk ninja who's died as part of a ceremony to travel to the boneyard to be taught secret lessons in how to destroy undead and return them to their rightful place to be sorted. I mean, that's pretty cool. They're all really cool characters. Big props to 2E for enabling that. However, I then, having kind of listened to their backstories and got a flavour of kind of what they were about and where they were kind of from and how they were kind of breaking down, as a DM, I gave them a bonus feat. So the rider of Hongal, I gave him the human feat that enables them to gain a skill feat, and I gave them ride as a skill feat. So they got their extra one in that way, reflecting their background and their character, and giving them that padding out at the base to really kind of hone in on the idea that they'd had that they couldn't quite stick at level 1. Yeah, okay, maybe they could stick it at level 2 or level 3, but it's not as cool. Now, Rurik, the sorcerer, this kind of axe shield wielding kind of axe mage, that's a new thing, I think, axe mage. You normally say spell sword. Obviously, I gave them Winter Touched Human. They're from the crown of the world. They should have it by rights, but then you're taking away their choice. So don't take away their choice, let them choose, and then tailor one as the DM that you give to them. I think is the emphasis on kind of how I kind of think it's best deployed. It's free, they're getting it anyway, and when you're paying attention and listening to what they're talking about and where they're from and what motivates their character, you can get an idea about what might bolster and fill that out and round the package out. So that's the kind of the 3. Now for the ninja, I went with another one of the returned ones, which was called Second Death, and basically it reflects around the idea that they've already died once and it's the circumstances of how they died. And basically when they're reduced to 0 hit points, they get a reaction to make an attack at full attack bonus as a kind of a last-ditch kind of reminiscent-based moment of the time before they died and were returned. Again, very tailored into the idea and the concept of the character. They had been, quote unquote, sacrificed in some crazy ceremony to travel to the boneyard to learn the secrets of how to become a true member of the Tomb Guardian Ninja clan or something along those lines. But these kind of options that Ancestry feats give us, they are well worth deploying more of. to really kind of give people a real cool foundation in what excites them about their character and what emphasizes and adds to their character. Because, like I said, you only get one of them, and yeah, there's ways and means, but this way, as the GM, you're paying attention, and it's a good, I suppose, exercise for you as a GM to pay attention and jot a few notes down and then have a ponder on it, because putting the character in your head so that you've got a good understanding about what they're about, what might motivate them, and what might interest them is really, really important. I can't stress that enough. If you aren't paying attention to what kind of they've talked about as a motivation for their character, which is by proxy a motivation for them as a player at this given point in whatever's about to take place, if you're not thinking about that all the time, you're not going to deliver something that is of interest, or certainly not as interesting as it could be. And they're great little things to kind of pick at and pull at. You know, if one of them has a very strong preference for a religion, motivating them in the game with people who oppose that religion is an easy buy-in, because they're going to want to chase it down. It's not, it shouldn't be used as something for lazy narrative and lazy storytelling. It should be used as a tool for engaging storytelling and exciting and interesting storytelling. So I don't think it's like a cop-out. Look at it as a way of pulling people in and getting them kind of more bought into what they already kind of got excited about. But Ancestry feats don't just stop with characters, because they are often very simple, very well rounded out features that are useful and specific to perhaps environments. The obvious one is the one we just mentioned, which is winter touched. So looking at animals, and you're in a particular region of the world, it's not a far stretch to say, hey, if you spend 50 more gold on this particular shaggy-haired breed of horse, it's a winter-touched horse and will survive better in the Arctic tundras that you're about to travel into. Because if you're going somewhere with extreme weather, which, you know, is a bit of a sore point at the moment globally, there should be some kind of adaptation within the animal kingdom to that particular region. Obviously, you look at elephants and you look at woolly mammoths. Well, you know, it's just an elephant that put on a big fur coat. Highland cattle are big, shaggy-haired cows, but they've adapted to survive in the harsh kind of northern climate of Scotland, where it rains and is cold quite a lot. But these simple feats, as you pick through them, you can use to really kind of create some unique little moments in your campaign worlds, be they pure Galorian or your own homebrew settings. So don't sleep on Ancestry feats. They're a great opportunity to like pick at very cool, simple baseline rules that are there to be useful from the get-go of level 1 and onwards. If you're in a desert and you have heat adaptation, it's never not useful. It's useful all day, every day. Now, if you're, again, looking at some of the other feats and kind of going, well, I can't do anything with those, it's not necessarily true, because you've got skill feats to look at. And there are skill feats that enable you to reduce the penalties for things like difficult terrain. What if there is a highly agile breed of riding deer that a particular kind of wood elf clan or tribe, or however you want to kind of pin your wood elves in this particular region, utilize, and so it just has it. Is it more expensive than a war horse? Probably a bit more expensive, mainly because maybe the people who own them aren't so willing to sell them to you. But then you've got an opportunity to kind of dangle a carrot and say, but if you do X and Y, maybe there's an opportunity. So although it's very cool and very fun to throw in a little bit of a mix-up with your PCs every so often, it doesn't go amiss to have a look at some monsters and some useful kind of allies in the form of kind of mounts and creatures and go, well, actually, maybe I can do something with these. I mean, again, to go back to the kind of the environmental adaptation ones, a polar bear is a bear that has, you guessed it, that winter touched feet. I mean, that's it in rules terms, isn't it? So don't sleep on the simple things, and feel free to kind of sometimes have a bit of a crazy during character creation and be a little bit more generous than the rulebook suggests, because it's only a suggestion. The rules are not kind of locked in bedrock. Jason Bullman will turn up at your house and punch you in the bracket. In fact, to be honest with you, if you gave people some generous kind of feats and said, hey, look, let's flavour it out. Actually, on the subject of generosity, I also gave them all horses. I didn't give them all war horses, but I gave them all horses. Now, obviously, they're quite expensive, but they were on the plains of the horse people. So why would they have to spend a lot of money on horses when they have lots of them and they're famed for having them? So again, when you're starting your campaign, don't just go dunk, 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 dunk. That's the norm. That's what the book says. Get a bit creative, get a bit excited, really kind of think about what might be in play and what might just be normal every day. And if you've got some things that fit and work and are not 10th level feats, they're those level 1 feats that you can just kind of throw into the mix. Chuck them at your party. And like I said, that exercise of paying attention to what characters have kind of talked about during their character creation, those little snippets of backstory, they give you a great opportunity to just be a little more generous and to really tailor in the experience of what that character is about with a little gift. And then do the same thing, but look at other things in that environment and that world. Are the horses tougher? Are there riding dogs of a large size? Those kind of ideas really kind of snap and pop when it's a surprise. And those nice little treats of, you weren't expecting that, were you? Here's something that makes this particular region cool and unique. That's what players remember. That's what they like talking about. People like to be surprised in a good way. Obviously, if you have decided that the region is filled with colossal sized dire bears that have a preference for eating human PCs and will stop at nothing to devour level 1 players, then clearly something has gone awry. But other than that, dabble and experiment. Now, hopefully that's given you some cool ideas and sparked a bit of the old creativity. And later on this week, I will be returning to the secrets of magic to dabble in some of the other areas in that book that I haven't quite touched on yet, that I think, again, offer some really quite cool opportunities for not only the rules as they stand, but what they can potentially lead to for some quite unique, dare I say, homebrew ideas and classes. So, hope you've liked the video. Drop a comment, obviously let me know your thoughts. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.